standard is they'll put in all this information, hit send, and it'll send it to us, and
And
it'll
I'll
send
pop
it
them down here,
in
so.
here. And then the newest submissions will be at the end. So the first ones that were put in at the top,
Isn't it
and
the other
then,
way around?
well, yeah, the ones that have been
Right, the oldest.
older than us.
Oldest, yeah.
Well, at the top,
First
and
turned in.
the ones that were most recently turned, it'll be at the
The
bottom.
timestamp is handled.
Yeah,
So the timestamp is automatically once that
Yep.
link is created?
yep, so once they hit send, it'll timestamp it for them, they don't have to put that information.
It's a Google form, and it's actually really simple.
Wow.
So then we go in here, and this is how we, ours looks a bit different because it has links to their evidence. We can click on their links and see what they've actually done for evidence of learning. And then we go in there and that's how we see which ones we can grade and in what order we need to grade them.
Feedback.
This takes care of that question of, oh, I turned it in.
Right.
You know,
Just waiting on the
Just
teacher
because you
who's hanging
have kids
around.
with great skills, or whatever, doesn't mean they're not kids. So, yeah, they can show you there that they did turn it
Right.
in, and we haven't gotten to it yet.
I think the nice thing is my daughter has some anxiety stuff going on, and so if she were to see a red on her chart, that would make her really anxious and probably a little bit upset. And so if your child is a little bit like mine, you know, this is a tool for them as well to check in on that, and they can actually watch themselves get closer to that assessment piece. So if their chart turns red and they're feeling a little bit anxious or nervous about that, then that's a place that they can use as a tool as well. And I think ultimately that was our ultimate goal for that, is that they're using that to kind of determine that need and what they're needing. And so I think that's a really good tool, but I also think it is a good conversation piece between families as you're checking on a progress chart and kind of what's going on with their learning. And, you know, those due dates, they're not, you know, hard and firm due dates most of the time. It's just that we want to keep them on pace to finish at the end of the year. So those are our deadlines or due dates are just helpful tools for them to kind of keep themselves on progress around check at the end of the year. So
Do you mind if I just double-
this one here.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about with this is, there's a lot of good information here, a lot of feedback that's given from us to students and from students to us. And there's a lot of good links up here too to help you read that progress chart. This one is just kind of a Google presentation that gives you a lot more information about where the progress chart is if you just click through. And then what each color means and what due dates means and that kind of stuff. So if you're having trouble reading the progress chart, that's a place where you can go and you and your learner can talk about that. They should know a lot about their progress chart, so they can probably teach you about that stuff too. But if you're having trouble, this is a place that you go to get that kind of information. There. And then one more thing that we have linked at the top is a link to our teacher website. I think Pam's going to talk about the teachers at a little bit.
So, these are very similar to the way they were last year, but we tweaked them a little bit. It has our email information here. And then the Adventures vocabulary down here, we talk about Daily Dish and Seminar, CT Circle, what all of that means. And I know some of you have children who are new to Adventures this year, and this is kind of a good place to look at with them. Let them lead you through their experience with all of these, perhaps. It's good to hear their point on it. But over here on the left side, by unit again, we're in iSearch right now, you can click on Earth and Space Science or Global Studies or 7 or 8 Language Arts, and this is my page, and it has these 3 columns. All of ours have the same setup. These are the seminar or coaching workshops that are teacher directed for that standard. And then options, things that they can do to help them. And some of these, they get really full with options sometimes. And then one way to show evidence. So this would be the assessment or the project or whatever that they could choose, kind of the one that I came up with their help. Or there's other ways that they could show. This is not the only way that they have to show that. And that's true of all the standards. And we put due dates on here again, so that those are in many places. And there's a lot of information on all of these. Let's click on 7 Language Arts. So it's the same sort of setup on all of them. So this here, you could check these whenever you like. They should be looking at them all the time. And they are. They are. So that's good. I know it just looks like a bunch of busy stuff scrolling around for you right now because it's very tight. But that's a good place to go. What are we on? This one here? No, where are we? This is terrible. Okay, let's see.
There you
Yeah,
go.
okay.
So click the next one.
Question.
like, you know, you write a paper in language arts, and then you need to do it, well, you need to duplicate some things,
Yeah.
and then resubmit. Is there?
Absolutely, absolutely. So some of that feedback that they'll get is, not yet. Let's keep working on that. Come to a coaching workshop. Let's talk about a conference. Let's keep working on this. Especially in language arts, that is the best way to get better as a writer, is to go back and go through that revising and that editing process, especially with support. So that is absolutely something that they will be experiencing this year, is that getting a chance to read you as often and as much as you need to
Right,
make
and
your
that's
own
for any
best.
subject,
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
whatever they need to.
So on that revising tab, when it says use the support, do they have opportunity to?
Absolutely,
Still do.
absolutely.
I look at it, learning like silver. You polish it and polish it, and it's never ever as shiny as you really like it. You just keep polishing it. You always find another speck in there, and they just need to keep polishing a different spot until they get there.
And I think these kids in this program especially really truly see this as a process and not as an end goal. And I think that's what's really unique about these kids, is that they know that they keep learning, they keep growing, they keep making better.
It's the journey. It's the journey.
That's the
So is the grade affected at all when they meet with assistants?
They don't. Well, we have to get. Do you want to address the grade thing? Because we don't issue grades.
No, that's a can of worms I'd rather not open right now. But just like those of you, well, you're all here with us last year, so the actual grade comes at the end of the year on this, so they can continue to meet those at any level they want to meet that. If they went the whole year and had to have support through every single standard, then obviously that wouldn't be an A. Okay? But we're really to the point of, this gives you more information on exactly what did your child learn, as opposed to, well, they got a B. Well, what didn't they know? What didn't they complete? Where didn't they get it? This will provide you, this is exactly where they were struggling, this is exactly where they were strong. It will provide that information for you. So what you really want to be watching, just as you were, for the last 2 years, that part hasn't changed, because you really want to be watching that standard completion.
So at the end, like if they're struggling during the second quarter with a certain topic, but then in the third and fourth quarter, they seem to bring it together, then they can still accept an A. And not that a grade is everything, but
That would be,
just
if I
will
could get
be-
everybody to understand that, I would, woohoo, I exceeded expectations. Yeah, because again, learning's that journey.
Yeah.
It's not constant. So that would be like saying I've got a 15-year-old daughter right now, and when she gets her driver's license here at 16, I'm done. Like, she may think that means I'm pulling out the car and going to the cities, but that's not what it means. It means that she can do a piece of it, but she still needs my support, and we're going to continue to support her and learn, and that's going to come over time. And she might get it at one time, or somebody else might get it at another. It's really how we learn, and so this allows for that and should be reflected in their assessment grading. Andy's going to have a child in February, so is Mr. Thompson. They're probably going to walk and talk at different times. That doesn't mean one failed walking. Okay? It just means that they did it at different times. I'm sure Mr. Lazarus will walk much sooner than Mr. Thompson. But so it's really, the whole goal behind any of that is that you're allowing learning to be the constant. Time is the variable. So it allows students, they're going to learn and get that when they're there and ready to learn and get that. And if you've had more than one child, you know that from experiences they've gone through, they've just clicked at different times. So that's what this allows for. So they're going to be able, that will tell you where they're at the final assessment. And yeah, we have to put a grade on that because that's what we have to do. We have the benefit at the middle school that those grades aren't going to get them into Harvard or whatever, so we can be a little bit more flexible as they get used to that standards piece.
And personalized learning has found its way into all the, because I have one class that's traditional, Explorers, we're calling it this year, and I teach that pretty much the same way, where it's not quite as traditional as it used to be, and there's some amazing personalized learning stuff going on in every classroom in the building. They're not the same as when we went to school at all. So there's lots of redoing and retweaking and polishing and all of that happening everywhere. But in adventures, it seems to be at this level because that's the focus it has been.
What's really been exciting in these 3 years is, those of you who have 8th graders know that those were the X kids in the past, if you will. And those students in the past would have been asking, what do I need to do to get the A? What do I need to do? They never asked, what do I need to learn, or how have I learned that, or they just, how do I get the A? Check that off and reflect on it. No, just, did I get the A? Okay, good, I'm moving on. That's a whole different world to them now. Okay, they're really concerned, they're less focused on that grade as they are about, look how cool I did this and what I showed and the feedback I'm getting on it. That's learning. And that's what our end goal is. And so if your child has gotten to that point where they're really invested in their product and their learning, that's what you ultimately are hoping for.
And I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's the journey, like you said. But high school, I imagine those conversations are very different.
They're
because
gonna
it's
struggle a
college.
little more with those conversations as far as, because we still live in a Carnegie unit GPA world. And that's changing across the country, that's changing. Even when I went and met with my sons at Mankato, Minnesota State Mankato, what they look at and what they accept is very different. Because there are other states in the country that have gone completely standards-based and those kids are coming in. So they're really looking at those assessment scores, they're really looking at products of learning. You don't necessarily have to turn a GPA in there, but you can turn in your, this is my portfolio of work. So that's a journey that is exciting in education. Maybe after 150 years, we'll start to move the bus forward.
And also the skills they gain here, they should be able to go to the most strict, rigid, traditional classroom with a pinched old teacher at the front of the room saying, this is what you're gonna do, and be successful. As well as some kind of laid back, kind of hippy-dippy classroom as well, because they got these skills. That the problem solving and trying, they can, I really think that our 8th graders could be put in any environment and be successful. Because they have like amazing skills they've gained over the 3 years.
We do have
These kids are gonna be sworn in here, so let's go.
Right.
Is there any, keep
And we do
going.
that.
Oh, we did, okay.
That's not.
So we just wanted to thank you guys for joining us and teaming with us this year and sharing your child with us. I think we're all going to benefit from this journey, and we really enjoy it, and I hope the year continues to be as successful as it's been so far. I mean, speaking for me personally, I really go home with a big smile on my face because of the experiences I have here today, and that's because of all the learning and the opportunities we're on a daily basis. So thanks for coming out today.
And we look forward to hearing from you too. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please provide us with that feedback as often as possible. And we want to keep that communication going as frequently as possible. So let us know what you're needing and what your child is needing, or just reach